it is traditional at this point in proceedings to do two things. Firstly, to reflect on the discussions that we've had and the speakers that we've heard, but also to thank those that made this possible. And in this sense, at least, I am a traditionalist. I will do both of those. So to start with the first and proceed to the second, revisiting some of the conversations that we've had over the last couple of days, I think we've learned quite a lot about the challenges of thinking differently and delivering lifelong learning. So we know that there are challenges as we look to deliver new entry points to tech for those who are starting a new career, for those returning to work, even from unexpected places. So a really inspiring talk yesterday, I think, about returning to work after prison. And on one hand, that's utterly different from the work that many of us do in universities. And on the other hand, it really is a subject that causes us to think about reaching learners that we don't otherwise, and thinking about tailoring education such that it suits them, and so on. We heard about the challenges inherent in providing and tailoring courses for those at different ends of their career. So the talk by McKinsey yesterday around the needs of the older unemployed, that's a subject which I think motivates a large number of us. And again, to use an example that's been used through the last couple of days, we really ought to be providing a solution for the thousands of people that have just been laid off by Honda in Swindon, and I'm not sure that we yet do. So there again is a challenge that we can take out of the hall and into the work that we're doing from tomorrow. We also know that we need to tailor the learning pathways that we provide to groups of learners that we currently don't serve as well as we might. And that was the subject of Anne-Marie's keynote yesterday. That was a theme that ran through Liz Williams' talk on Future.now. It was a theme that was picked up by Helen and the panel that were in this session just before the break. And it's a theme that Neil's picked up again in the last few minutes. So working out what it is that we need to do to serve the different constituencies of learners as they go through life and learn and work and learn and work is a challenge that we will take, I think, beyond this couple of days. It's also clear that we need to provide support for those for whom we do not always seek out support. So Molly's talk on assistive technology yesterday, Neil's echoing of those points today, the personalised learning approaches that were talked about by Metro Bank and their panel, all of those give us food for thought, I think, as we turn back to our day jobs and turn back to the idea that we really do need to provide pathways into tech for many more people than we currently do. We also heard repeatedly, so I think Jacqueline mentioned it in her first talk yesterday. I know that Sheila mentioned it yesterday at the drinks event. Signposting. We understand that people who are going through a rather less linear model of learn, work, stop, that they will need signposting to reach the right courses and to reach the right experience and reach the right place for them in this emerging digital economy. So signposting also remains a challenge for us. But I think more importantly, what we heard over the last couple of days were reports on initiatives which are starting to deliver against those challenges. So I would like to continue my policy of mentioning Tech Up Women with every talk that I give from this lectern. Thank you again to them. The notion and the particular point I'd like to make is the cohort building that they achieved is truly impressive. For those that went to the closing ceremony for Tech Up Women, you could feel the sense of cohesion amongst the learner cohort, and I think that's truly something that we can take away and do more with. I think that Farron has had to run for a train, but for those of you that weren't in the session talking about the importance of place in lifelong learning, I would reiterate the point that the Welsh universities are visiting 97% of Welsh schools to talk about the importance of digital skills every year. And there are some local factors around the geography of Wales and the way that the university system works which help. But again, when we talk about encouraging people from their first step into careers to their last step out of careers to think about different skill sets and different ways that they might run their working life, that's a truly impressive initiative. 97% of schools visited every year. Similarly, I think in a newer sense, the work that the Open University has been showcasing in our exhibition rooms, looking at the ways in which we might use badging technology and accreditation approaches to join together traditional learning and non-traditional learning and pieces of experience that don't fit very neatly in a formal course. That again is something that we can take away as a green shoot on which we can build. That might be a mixed metaphor. I'll come back to that later. But nonetheless, those pieces of work are starting, and in many cases, the coalition of the willing, which is the IoC, is helping those pieces of work to develop. So of those things, I think we can be particularly proud. It remains true, as I said in my opening remarks, that the IoC remains committed to modular lifelong learning in all its forms, and we continue to engage students through the Control Your Future campaign. We continue to teach differently, for example, through the online courses happening at Coventry, happening at Leeds, hosted through FutureLearn and so on. And we continue to support learners in a series of ways, from the cohort building that I've already mentioned to online support, to different ways of designing face-to-face courses. So I think then at this point, it is incumbent upon all of us to remember that we continue to face challenges to deliver this idea of thinking differently about lifelong learning, but higher education retains the potential to unlock digital careers for all of us. This really is a sector where we can make a difference. We can do something that's important to individual people pursuing individual pathways. And we remain a coalition of people committed to making that happen. So I think as we go out into the rain and the fog and the reminder that it's grim down south, I think that it's important to say, whether you're part of the IoC or not currently, we really would like to continue working with you to make sure that we achieve these aims, tailoring for students, tailoring for pathways, providing signposting, and so on. So I will, in a second, challenge you to join us and go out and do all of those things in the next year. Before I do that, it does remain important to thank all of the people without whom these conversations would not have taken place. And some of those people are rather obvious. So it is obvious that I need to thank the speakers throughout the 2 days, in the main hall, in the sub-sessions outside. It also remains obvious that we need to thank the IET for hosting us and for providing such excellent technical support and facilities and food and so on. I think rather less obvious, however, is the work that's gone on, not least by the central team. And I'm going to pick out Elle and Katie if they're here, but I think Elle and Katie are hard-working examples of a team that's flayed themselves alive to get this event to happen. It's also important to mention the assistance that we've had from the student ambassadors and the student volunteers, so thank you to those of you that are here today. Also to those that have been here over the last couple of days and have gone on to have lives away from us. It's also true that without each of the consortium partners in the project, none of this would have happened. None of this would be possible, none of this would have been populated, none of these conversations would be as far progressed as they are. And I know that Karen and the team were particularly keen to thank the project managers from different university partners who, on an appeal from us to come down and just pitch in over the last couple of days, a number of project managers gave up their own time to come and do that. So thank you to you particularly. I think that the board members and chairs, you've seen pretty much all of the chairs of our boards. You've seen a large number of our advisory board members. I can see some of you still in the audience this afternoon, so thank you for that. Beyond those intimate members of the project itself, however, I think I'd pick out two groups. First of all, the captioning team. Don't know how many of you that don't feel that you need captioning have used the captioning today. I know that I have, and I think that's a practice that we will take further. Also, my thanks to Practice Labs, who sponsored the refreshments that you've all been consuming with gusto. I think last night consuming with a fair amount of gusto, from what I understood. But thank you to Practice Labs also. But beyond all of those thanks, I think thank you to all of you for coming down and taking part. This really is what the IoC is. So thank you for being the conversation rather than simply participating in one that was put on for you. And I hope very much that you will remember that impact at scale is really only possible through partnership. So do form new ones, do build on the ones that already exist, and do help us to build interesting stuff on the basis of the partnerships that we have. So we have plenty to do. We have plenty to think about coming out of the last 2 days. But my last appeals are, first of all, if you are not yet a part of the IoC, please join us. We'd love to have you with us, and there appears to be rather a large amount of work still to do. So do talk to the people that you know who are inside the consortium if you are not and would like to be. And after that, tomorrow we're back to work, and you will be receiving the same rather grumpy phone calls from me saying, could you please let me have this piece of data, or could you attend this meeting, or more relevantly, could you do this thing that I can't? With that, thank you all. I wish you a very safe journey home, and I will hope to see you in a year's time to have the next one of these. Thank you very much indeed.